All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory be unto Yahweh, Bahasham, YAHAWASHI, Bahasham, Rakar, Quadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well. And peace, salutations, and blessings be unto the hopeful elect, pushing his truth in sincerity throughout the four corners of the globe, in the sincere hopes of being delivered in these last days. All right, this is the brother Yakanan from the GMS England branch. And, you know, this is going to be another in transit edition video. Lord willing, it be edifying unto you brothers out there and few sisters listening and also learning, all right? And in this video, I want to speak upon, you know, trials, you know, tribulations, you know, hell and L's, you know, that we take and that we experience, you know, being in the faith. And, you know, trials and tribulation, you know, suffering is a part, if you will, of the initiation and continued preservation, you know, in the ministry, man, okay? Until our Lord and Savior, YAHAWASHI, you know, makes his return and delivers us from our enemy, our enemies, all right, main enemy being Esau, Edom. You know, we are going to experience trials and tribulation. We are going to experience pain, you know, hell, anguish, and, you know, all of the above, okay, because we're not delivered yet. And part of our captivity, part of our punishment is going through these experiences, okay, but also part of our refinement and perfecting is also going through trials and tribulations and going through that fire, as the scriptures tell us, you know, in many different, you know, sections of the Bible, all right? Specifically, one comes to mind in Sirach, you know, the 2nd chapter, where it talks about us being tried as gold, because that's exactly what's happening when you go through traumatic, terrifying, maybe terrifying is not the you know, the right word I'm looking for, but it can also include, you know, terrifying experiences. But what I really want to say is, when you go through hell, when you go through unpleasant experiences, you know, this is us being purged through that fire. This is us being purified. This is us being made perfect through pain, all right? Because that's the desired method that YAHAWASHI has set up in these last days to purify his elect, okay? And it was the same method that, you know, the Most High Yahweh used, you know, for his only begotten son, who is YAHAWASHI, okay? The method of pain, right? The method of sacrifice, the method of, you know, in YAHAWASHI's case, you know, the spilling of blood was used in order to purify many, okay, namely the elect, but ultimately all Israel, because as the scriptures say, you know, ultimately all Israel shall be saved, okay? So these were the methods that were used in order to put us back on the path to salvation, if you will, okay? So while we are here and we're in our captivity still, you know, we are yet this day in our captivity, as the scriptures tell us, we are going to experience pain, all right? We are going to experience trauma. We're going to experience, you know, unpleasant situations upon the earth until we are delivered, okay? And I was just, you know, meditating while I'm driving on Job, all right? We always reference, you know, Job and the things that Job went through in his life, you know, the persecution, the torment, you know, the pain, you know, disease, you know, death, you know, them things were very present in Job's life, but he maintained his integrity. Okay, through all of that pain, suffering, and anguish, all right, mental, turmoil, all right, he maintained, his integrity, and he didn't curse the Most High, even though his woman told him, to curse the Most High and die. Which shows you that, as the scriptures tell us, the Lord has not imparted wisdom unto the woman. Okay, because as soon as, tribulation, manifested, she switched sides. Okay, and that can happen, and that will happen in these last days, and has happened. Okay, so we have to remember these things, and we have to meditate on the great men of old, and one of them being, of course, Job, and of course the ultimate example we have, the scriptures tell us to mark the perfect man. The ultimate example that we have is YAHAWASHI. All right, he's the ultimate example of pain, of sufferation, and also triumphing over them things through the Spirit. Okay, so we have to remember these things, man. Especially when we're going through trials and tribulations, especially when nothing ain't working, in your life for you. Sometimes you just have a continuous run of woes. Nothing's going right. You feel like you you're being pranked. Some days it's just like, damn, how bad can this day get? But remember, the scriptures tell us that these are light afflictions in comparison to what we're about to receive in the kingdom. Everything that we experience in this flesh right now upon the earth is a light affliction. And it's very important, especially when you're going through trials and tribulations, especially when you're catching these L's, that you remember that this is ultimately a light affliction, man. Now, of course, we're in the flesh. Okay, so sometimes you're going through shit, okay, and it don't feel like a light affliction. It feels like it's heavy. Okay, it feels like, you don't even want to carry on no more, man. Okay, you be going through certain things, especially, for brothers that have, ailments, all right, that be experiencing, great pain on a daily basis. All right, these things can be, wrecking, to your existence, man. All right, yeah, because the scriptures say, better is death than a life of continual pain. Roughly paraphrasing, which ultimately, yeah, that's true. But through YAHAWASHI, we have hope. Okay, through YAHAWASHI, we have hope, and through YAHAWASHI, all right, we're gonna have our bodies changed, as the scriptures tell us, in a twinkling of an eye, we shall be saved. Okay, so ultimately, this salvation is no joke. This salvation actually entails us getting new bodies, us being totally transformed. Okay, imagine that. This very body that we have right now, that our spirit is housed in, this is not even the body, all right, that we're going to have in the kingdom. This is not even the body that we're going to have in the kingdom, man. Okay, the body that we're going to have in the kingdom is going to be perfect. All right, we're going to have a perfect abode, if you will, in the kingdom of heaven, when we're going to be changed, man. So these are the things that are supposed to keep you meditating on the things above, as it tells us in Colossians, the 3rd chapter, man. Meditate on these things. Meditate on the change that's coming. Meditate on the salvation that's coming through YAHAWASHI. Okay? Try not to meditate and focus on the mental woes and the physical woes that we're catching right now, because as the scriptures tell us, these things are temporal. All right? These things are not eternal. These things are temporal, but the kingdom to come is eternal. Remember that, man. Okay, but meditate on Job, meditate on what he went through, because it can always be worse. That's another thing to remember. It can always be worse, man. No matter how bad of a situation you might be entangled in at the present time, it can always be worse. And even if it does get worse, just remember that YAHAWASHI, all right, he's giving you the strength to conquer that situation. Okay, he's giving you the strength to overcome. The Lord ain't going to leave us out here high and dry, man. YAHAWASHI is going to be with his elect. As the scriptures tell us, I am with you even unto the end of the world. Okay? YAHAWASHI is with us, man. No matter what we're going through, man. As they say in the world, what don't kill you can only make you stronger. All right? Now remember, again, you know what Job went through, man. All right, he lost his children. I think he had 10 children. You know, they got taken away. All right, so he was getting put through it. All right, and it's always good to refer, you know, to the book of Job because he went through so much. And again, like I said in the beginning of the lesson, he maintained his integrity, man, even though he went through all of that. Now, when you read through, you know, some of the things that Job went through, I mean, imagine you have 10 children and you lose those children. Okay? You know, he was a wealthy man. You know, livestock, you know, was getting taken from him. Okay? Wealth was getting taken from him. His woman turned on him. Okay? Ailments. You know, plagues of the body. You know, everything you can imagine, you know, every terrible thing you can imagine concerning physical and, you know, mental torment, Job went through that, man. All right, Job actually experienced these things and overcame. And what happened in the end? He was rewarded. Okay? He got his children back. He had more children. Okay? He was blessed with more children. He got his riches back. Okay? So he went through all of that, you know, trials and tribulations and hell, but because he stayed true and he didn't curse the Most High and die as he was instructed to do by his woman, the Lord rewarded him, man. And it's the same thing that we got to do in these last days, man. Maintain your integrity. Remember the scriptures say, I will bear the indignation of the Lord because I have sinned against him. And remember, we transgressed. Okay? We broke the contract. All right? We broke the contract, man. So now being returned, as it outlines in the book of Baruch, I believe it's the 4th chapter, seek him 10 times more. Okay? Seek YAHAWASHI. All right? Seek YAHAWASHI and do all that you can, Lord willing, to be delivered in these last days, man. All right? So again, you know, trials and tribulations, yeah, that's a part of the walk, man. That's a part, you know, being, you know, in this ministry and being purged through the fire and being purified. All right, so even though it feels negative and it feels terrible, just know that that's a good sign that YAHAWASHI is indeed dealing with you on a spiritual level. All right, because we're not receiving, you know, the blessings of the world. We're not receiving the blessings of this life. All right, we have chosen, you know, to bear the cross. And bearing the cross, you know, comes with what? Trials and tribulations. It comes with suffering. Okay? We have to be refined, you know, to enter into the kingdom of YAHAWASHI, man. All right? So with that, Lord willing, this lesson has been edifying. And until next time, I'll say shalom.